Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and start this. This is really exciting. I'm really excited about this topic. So maybe a few more people will join on, which is cool. But let's go ahead and dive in. This is fun. So this is perfect timing because I'm in Kauai. I got here yesterday, and we're talking about how to do easy portfolio building while you travel, which is a great topic. I'm really excited about this because I love traveling. I've loved traveling way longer than I thought that I was actually going to be a destination photographer of any kind. I for a long time, I thought that being a destination wedding photographer was a total pipe dream, and that it's like wanting to be a rock star, and that it definitely wasn't accomplishable or doable. But I knew I loved to travel, and traveling was something that was always that felt like more attainable to me. I don't really know what made me so obsessed with traveling. That's probably a good question, but I don't even remember being like 5 years old and just having this feeling of, I want to go see other places. I wonder what's like on the other side of this planet from me right now while I'm in my parents' backyard. Like, I wonder, other people living in different places, having different lives, doing different things. Yeah, I just always had this like yearning and desire to just see what else was out there. For me, a little bit of history of like my traveling experience and like why I love it so much, and it is just such a cornerstone of my business. Someone was asking yesterday in the Facebook group what was one thing that I think has been the best investment that I've ever spent money on for my business, and the first thing that I said in response was actually traveling, and it's true. Just traveling has really, truly changed me as a person. My first experience outside of the US was actually going to Haiti when I was 16, which is quite the like first experience outside of the US as like a little middle-class white girl to go to the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere that is predominantly Black, not white, and it was absolutely life-changing for me. I went on a missions trip with a group of some people from the Christian school that I was going to at the time. I'm no longer religious, not that matters, but that was my first experience outside of the US, and it was really eye-opening to me. I remember that trip, I have my own opinions on like short-term trips, and volotourism, and is that really impactful? Not like this is on topic in the slightest, but it did for sure impact me as a person and impact how I've lived the rest of my life and how I have chosen to live my life and the things that I care about. So it did for sure make a lasting impact on me as a person, and I do think that traveling does that to people. So however you travel and wherever you end up going, I think every travel experience I've ever had has changed me and taught me something, and I've grown and learned and matured and become less fearful and more brave every single time that I've gone somewhere new. And I think that is one of the best investments I've ever done for myself and as a business owner. I know for sure that I would not have the business that I have today and the confidence to do the things that I do if I hadn't have had all this travel experience. I've been to 30 countries in I guess the last 10 years because I'm 26, and so going to Haiti when I was 16, that my first experience of just being like, wow, there's a whole another world out there who's living in such a different way than me, and wow, like I can't trying to as a 16-year-old come to grips with the amount of privilege that I had as a middle-class white girl. I'll just finish this one story. I know I want to get back on topic, but I remember we actually toured and were volunteering with an orphanage down there, and we visited an actual hospice for terminally ill kids in Haiti. And I remember seeing this one girl who was about my age. She was about 16 as well, and she was just lying in a hospital bed and she was dying. And just I didn't know, like I remember just coming to like being literally face to face with wow, like I get to go back home to my house and my family and my, nice middle class, cushy white person life in the US. And this girl, like, she might not even be alive by the time I get back home. And that, like, it's still like, I still deeply, deeply remember that experience. And coming to terms with that was really interesting. And I've had so many different experiences around the world, going to India and Russia and Cuba and Southeast Asia and China and Africa and lots of parts of Central and South America. And I can remember every trip that I've taken and all the different ways that it's changed me and grown me, not only as a business person, but as a just a human being in general. So I think in this, and I don't feel like I'm slightly off topic, but I think this topic of portfolio building while traveling, I think it is important to remember that traveling is worthwhile in itself as a business person, and it has been for me in a huge way, regardless of whether I've taken my camera or photographed a couple there or not. So I guess my little detour made sense. I think that is what I wanted to talk about here, is that traveling is worthwhile in itself, whether or not you take photos there and you come back and you can leverage them to build a portfolio and grow your business or not. I've absolutely never regretted spending anything that I've spent time or money-wise on travel or adventure experiences, either around the US or around the world. It has always come back to me tenfold. And so if you're, feeling stuck and like, I don't know what to do, like traveling is never the wrong answer, in my opinion. I've always found it to be just incredibly eye-opening, inspiring. I feel so pumped up and inspired while I'm traveling, and after I come back from a trip, just like seeing a new perspective is always super valuable. So I'm super addicted to traveling. I go to, I don't know, 10 to 15 different countries a year. I think 2017 or 18, I was in 13 different countries for work specifically, which is kind of crazy. But portfolio building while traveling, I think having a passion for travel and appreciating it for what it is a good place to start. So, okay, now we have like a bunch of people here, so let's go ahead and start it and actually talk about what we're going to talk about today, which is how to do easy portfolio building while traveling. These are a lot of things that I have figured out over time of, loving to travel and going to a new place. And I have found that like, I love being there and being in the moment. And I really enjoy trips where I haven't even taken my camera. But for me personally, I absolutely love photographing couples. And there's personally nothing more exciting and fun for me than photographing a couple in a new place. So if I get to travel to a new place, awesome. And then if I get the chance to actually photograph a couple there in this brand new environment, this stunning scenery, the scenery that's so different than maybe where I'm from and what I'm used to, it's like, it's just, it is like the dream for me. Like I absolutely love it. I think it's an absolutely super, super fun experience. And so, how have I set up different shoots while I have been traveling around? Let me pull up my notes here because I feel like I'm straying. I remember, I've actually only had an Instagram for like 2.5 years now. So I was pretty late to the game as far as using it for business. But I remember seeing stuff on Instagram and Facebook and online of these like really intense, really complicated styled shoots like around the globe. And so for a long time, I felt like that was a really unattainable thing for me to do. Like I didn't have the connections. I didn't know, how to like make them or how to find the right people, and just like these crazy, complicated, really intense, like styled shoots around the world with this intense styling and this table and like these floor pillows and whatever. That wasn't something that I felt like was really something that was gonna be very easy for me to set up. And so I wanted to figure out what is the easiest, simplest way for me to get to do, to accomplish multiple things, to be able to do something cheaply, sometimes more last last minute. My goal was like, I want to photograph more couples in more amazing places. And I don't think that has to be this crazy, really intense, complicated styled shoot process. And the other thing for me is, if anyone is taking a look into what I do and in my work, heavy styling and like really intense installations and crazy decor is really not the staple of like what I got hired to do most of the time, because the focus for me and for most of the couples that hire me is the scenery and is the nature, and they are more simple in the sense that it's a couple and they have beautiful attire. They may have a bouquet, they may not. I have plenty of elopement couples like on their actual wedding day that don't that don't have a bouquet or don't do any crazy styling, because the focus is the two of them getting married, and like they'll put a lot of time and effort into their own personal look and their clothing, their attire. But besides that, it's rings, vows, them, and the scenery that is like the essence of most of the elopements that I photograph. And I love it that way. I've actually had a lot of couples say, I love that your stuff isn't full of these big fake shoots that are over the top that I just can't imagine myself being in. I love that the focus of what your work is the scenery, and that they intentionally chose me actually because my portfolio wasn't full of these crazy over the top shoots that that an average couple like wanting to boil back their wedding to like what actually matters, to that simple, that them committing their lives to each other in this amazing place. Like they love that what I was showcasing in my portfolio, which is what drew them to me. I don't know if you can hear that. There are a huge amount of chickens on Kauai. Like it's just this big island joke, and like there's just probably hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of chickens on Kauai. And they start making lots of noise around 5 a.m. and they make a ton of noise all day long. So if you hear chickens in the background, that's why. I'm on Kauai and there's lots of chickens here. Has anyone else who's watching been to Kauai? Have you seen this crazy chicken phenomenon? It makes me laugh at every time. Stacy and Simone. And oh wow, a bunch of people have been to Kauai. All the chickens. It's funny because every time I come back here, I forget, and then at 5 a.m. they like very promptly remind me, hey, we're still here. Oh, Maui has it too, apparently. That's funny. Cool. Okay, glad people are here and listening. Awesome. Thanks for chiming in. It makes it easier to like talk, because I'm just sitting in a room talking to my computer screen right now, which is not a very normal thing for me to do. So okay, back to portfolio building while traveling. Where was I? I was talking about the fact that it was liberating for me, and it was also refreshing for a lot of my couples to just kind of, for me personally, let go of that. Every styled shoot and everything that I want to do to build my portfolio doesn't have to be these big, giant, all out bunch of vendors. Yeah, I'm in Kauai. Hi, Corey. Yeah, it just doesn't have to be this crazy, huge, over the top, unattainable thing that's going to cost thousands of dollars and take forever to set up. And so I'm going to talk about it, like a few things that I found to be really helpful. And then there was a bunch of people that asked some great questions that I have some really good solutions for as well. So first of all, this is perfect because I actually brought several things that I use all the time for portfolio building while traveling with me. So one of my favorite things to do when I travel is to just bring a dress. It's such a simple thing. Bring a dress or a couple of dresses that are, the rooster, I think, is right outside my window. He's so loud. Concentrate, Maddie. Okay, you know what? I'm going to screen share something with you guys really quick and just show you this, because this will make this story make a ton more sense. So let me do this really quickly. Where are we here? Where's that page that I wanted to show you? Here it is. Okay, cool. All right, let's screen share really fast, guys. Cool. Share screen, share. Cool. Okay, hopefully you can see this. So This is really fun because this is a good example of how one shoot that and I'll tell you the story of how I put this together is still getting me business and still getting me inquiries like 3 or 4 years later, and was something that I spent a total of $20 on making happen. So in 2016, so I guess it was 3 years ago, I went to Costa Rica by myself to go on a yoga retreat, and it was actually one of my first time spending an extended period of time in another country just by myself, traveling alone, and it was incredibly fun. Spent some time in some different areas, and there's one part, I don't know if anyone's been to Santa Teresa, Costa Rica, really beautiful beach, rocky. Like I live in the mountains in a landlocked state, and I love the mountains a lot, but because the ocean's always like a special treat for me, because it's not something I can access very easily from Colorado and having grown up there. So whenever I get to go to a beach, it's like, wow, this is so different, so new, so fun. And wherever you live in the world, you might have a different type of scenery that's like, oh, I just love this type of scenery. It's just so nice and different. Like fog is another thing for me that my husband, who is Scottish, laughs at me every time I get obsessed about the fog, because it's like foggy and raining all the time in Scotland. But Colorado is like almost bright blue sunny almost every single day. It's like over 300 days of sunshine a year. So if I get fog to play with on a photo shoot, I get really excited, which is funny. Maybe I should just like move to Seattle or something and like get the fog all the time. So you can hear this chicken just cracking me up. I'm easily distracted, guys. Sorry. So I went to Costa Rica, and this is like such a fun story of this example of how I set up the shoot, but I'll just show it to you first, like what the end result ended up looking like. So if you Google Costa Rica elopement photographer, even today, and I haven't even totally worked on, updating and, doing every single little inch of this piece, right, of making sure that this post is as perfect as humanly possible. But with 3 years ago, and this still works, like I'm not too mad about it. So like this is still showing up pretty close to the top as far as Google Images. And this is even with like an old editing style here, but I don't know how many of you have actually seen this shoot that I did. Yeah, so it was, back in early 2016, and I blogged it a few months later. And so this is a incredibly simple portfolio building shoot that I did on Santa Teresa Beach in Costa Rica. And so I'm going to explain exactly how I set this up and how easy it was, and some other fun parts of this story. So I went to Costa Rica by myself, and I had absolutely none of this set up before I left. And so it was one of those like spur of the moment things, like this whole shoot and me doing it came to life less than 3 days before it actually happened. And it could have happened within 24 hours. Like I could have set up this entire shoot and done what I did for the shoot within 24 hours, actually, due to a scheduling conflict with the couple that we decided to do it a few days later. So this is just like the base level of like the simplest, easiest way that you can set up a styled shoot while you are traveling. That's like the most minimal effort, but it still works, which I think is pretty fun and powerful. And then we can like build up from there. And like, there's tons of there's many different ways to portfolio build while you travel. There's tons of different ways to set up styled shoots to connect with people. But I'm going to start with like level one, the easiest, simplest to like still get stuff that actually works. And so I still love these photos. Editing is a little different than how I edit now, but I haven't looked at this whole shoot in a while here. So how did I set this up? The only thing that I did before I left was put a dress in my backpack. So I'm going to show you this dress. So I actually still have it. I still have it with me. Like 3 years later, open my packing cube full of dresses here. So this dress I got for $20 on Amazon, and I will link it in something to share with you guys. It was $20. I think it might be like $30 now. I'm gonna stand up and show this to you guys a little better. So It's an incredibly simple dress. So when I was trying to figure out what kind of dress could I purchase that would be really inexpensive and that like the exact size of the person that I'm photographing it with doesn't actually matter, that it would be more of like a one size fits all wedding dress, which sounds kind of nuts, but I think convertible wedding dresses are such a good solution for it. Has anyone heard of convertible bridesmaid dresses, or like photographed bridesmaids that have those dresses that you can tie like 10 different ways or anything? I have to stop sharing with you to actually get that. Maybe I don't. Who has? Yeah, so they are super useful, and you can get them in white, and you can get them from tons of different places, and some like really, really simple and really affordable. And look how small this dress packs. Like this whole wedding dress, I can fit in like less than like a gallon Ziploc bag. I actually think that that's how I carried it to Costa Rica, was in like a Ziploc gallon bag. In my backpack was this this dress, which is simple. And I know someone asked about like how you can find like, is this really special dress? Is this, going to be styled enough? And I will get to that later, actually, but we'll start with this simple, easy solution that's just really accessible for most people. Is like a $20 to $30 convertible white maxi dress. A really good tip for searching for extremely cheap white dresses is don't use the word wedding or bridal at all. Don't use wedding, don't use bridal, don't use gown, don't use any of those words. Search for white maxi dress or white long dress, or or go for ivory or cream or like an off-white color. Search on a whole bunch of different sites that aren't wedding related in the slightest. Search Macy's, search Lulu's, search Amazon for white long dresses or white long skirts. I'm going to show you a few that I found that have been great. But this kind is like super, super simple and awesome. So it fits in like a gallon size bag, and I just tossed this in my suitcase before I left, and I was like, yeah, maybe I'll set up a shoot. That would be really fun. I'll see if I can figure it out. And so that's all that I did. These dresses are cool because essentially they have two extremely long tails. these like long streamers at the top that are the sleeves that essentially you put it on, and it has an adjustable waist, and this fits like many different sizes of people. The only thing that I found is that it doesn't work with girls who have too big of boobs, because there's not a lot of support to hold it up. So that's the only thing is that I found that it's harder to work with, is if a couple, if a woman is more curvy like myself, I could not wear this type of dress personally. So that is one downside of it, but it is extremely small. It is extremely, oh, sure. Oh, I didn't even realize that. Turn my screen share off. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. I'm still getting used to this webinar thing. Sorry, let me show this again to people who didn't see it. So yeah, it has these super long straps that you can tie many different ways. So you can like twist them, you can like wrap them around in different ways. The front of the dress has like an elastic waist. So, and you can tie it like a whole bunch of different ways. So this specific dress that I purchased, I don't think is available any longer. Oh, it's a different one. But here's one that's really similar. And you can tie it just like a whole bunch of different ways. As you can see, oh, I'm not screen sharing anymore. You guys can't see what I'm talking about. Share screen. I will get the hang of this eventually. Okay, so this is a similar dress you can find on Amazon. Here's one with that is like $25. And you can tie it a whole bunch of different ways. So you can tie it like that in the back, and you can cross it. There's a whole bunch of different ways that you can tie it. You can even look these up, and they'll show you like, here's 25 different ways that you can style and tie this dress, which is cool because you can reuse the same dress over and over again and get several different looks. So it's not like your whole portfolio is going to look the same. You can add a wrap, you can add a shawl, you can add a little caplet, top piece. You can get like a huge amount of mileage out of the same dress. I think, I don't know, I've taken this dress to at least 5 or 6 different countries. I have a different one at home, which I'll show you really quick. It's by so I bought it from Beholden, but it's actually from Two Birds Bridesmaids. That's the original, yeah, Two Birds Bridesmaids is the original designer of this dress. Like it was called the Ginger Maxi dress by Beholden, and you can still find images of it. You can still find pins of it. So it was this, yeah, here, I think they might still even have the original listing, but I don't believe they still sell it directly through Beholden. Oh, wow. Oh, it's sold out. Yeah. It's not $60. It's like, I'm going to buy another one. It's sold out. But you can buy it directly still through Two Birds Bridesmaids. It was, you can see that was their original manufacturer. But this one was really pretty because it was tulle and it was really flowy. It had a big, huge, thick, beautiful, like really dramatic, gorgeous skirt on it. And actually, like, I even had a bride of mine actually elope in this dress. She just loved it, and she saw that I'd used it for a different shoot, and she actually used it for her elopement. So I can show you what this dress actually looks like. It was really, really beautiful. And it's big and thick, and it's flowy, and just incredibly gorgeous. And I'm really impressed with how well this Wi-Fi is doing it. It was perfect for a hiking elopement dress as well. She put it on when we got up there because it's so small and packable, and it looked great on her. I'm trying to find a picture of it being super flowy and beautiful because it has this huge flow to it. And I've taken this dress, I've taken it to Southeast Asia. I took it to Cuba and did a fun shoot in Cuba with it. I've taken it, like, I've drug it through like a muddy canyon. Like, yeah, it's so pretty and flowy. There's, yeah, like, it's a really big full skirt, which is nice. This other one that I used for this shoot in Costa Rica is like way small, and it's like, oh, it's only one layer. This has like multiple layers in the dress, and it's been one of my favorite convertible dresses for shoots like this because it's just like the skirt makes all sorts of super fun shapes, and it's like big and thick, and it was gorgeous. And I think even from Two Birds Bridesmaids, this dress is only like, I don't know, like a couple $100 probably. And yeah, so it's this simple like white tulle ball gown, or I think I may have gotten the cream version. Yeah, so it's like $350, and I have gotten an insane amount of mileage out of this dress, and you can tie it a million different ways. Again, if you're looking for like really good cheap like caplets, Beholden is another like amazing place to look for accessories of just like little caplets that you can add on top of, here, I'll actually search it up here, of like little shawls or little just like pieces that you can add on top to make it look a lot more styled and a lot more different. You can add a cape to it. You could add, you know, a top piece, like any of these things. It's like you could put this on top of that convertible dress tied in whatever way you want it. There's a way you can tie it that it's in a strapless way. And by essentially purchasing one $350 dress, you can, I mean, I think I got it on sale from Beholden for like $150 and like a few years ago. And I've done so many different portfolio building shoots with that dress. And it's, and you know, you can get a ton of different looks out of it. And they sell this dress in tons of different colors. And so I wanted to show that like a convertible dress is a really, really good solution of like a way to make it. I feel like it's the piece of a shoot that it's like, if you have it, it's really easy to kind of put the whole rest of it together. is if you like have that dress bit. So back to this Costa Rica story, which is fun. So the way that this shoot happened is I'd thrown this $20 dress, and I'm gonna check the comments in a second if anyone wants to drop questions while I'm talking, and we'll go over some more questions. So I put this $20 dress in my backpack. I went to Costa Rica. I was hiking actually a few days before on another beach, just exploring it. And I had on my mind like, hey, I think it would be fun to photograph a couple here. I'm just gonna go out on a limb and see if I see anyone that I think might be interested. And as a photographer who's photographed couples for a long time, I don't know if anyone else feels this way, but you have little spidey senses about what couples are dating, what couples are friends, what people are just friends, what couples are like married. And so, I went into kind of like photographer creeper mode, like just a little bit, and and was, just hiking on this beach, and I was like, well, let's see who I see. So, when I was out at restaurants or eating or just walking on the street or hiking around, I just had my eyes peeled while I, the couple of days before the shoot for just like anyone who might be interested. I'll also say business cards might be not something that's used as much still in the US, although they are still used. But I'll say like having actual business cards is a really good thing to bring on trips because it makes you seem a lot less weird when you ask questions like this to random strangers. If you have like a real business card with your name and your website, and like you look a lot more legit and a lot less creepery if you do this when you talk to people. So I saw this couple, and their names are Stefan and Martina. And I didn't know that obviously at the time. They were hiking on the beach that I was hiking on, and it was Essence, and it was super pretty. And so I actually, funny story, we were walking like this, so I was passing them, and as I was like, they were getting closer and I was getting closer, I was like, I gotta talk to them, and I chickened out. And then they kept walking, and I kept walking. I was like, no, Maddie, no, get it together. You have to go ask. Like, you really want to do this? They would be perfect. Like, get over yourself. I'm actually naturally a huge introvert, and so this was probably at the time like one of the scariest things that I have done, was turn around, and I ended up like almost running down the beach after this poor couple, and I was like, excuse me, like just I didn't even know if they spoke English or not, and so like they turned around, they looked a little bit confused, like obviously, and I said, hey, sorry, I don't mean to bother you guys, but I was just my name's Maddie. I'm a photographer. I think that this beach is super pretty, and I just think it would be really fun to be able to take photos of a couple here. Like, is there any chance that the two of you would be interested in having some photos taken? And super simple, like you don't need to complicate it. You don't need to tell them what it's for or what you're going to be doing with it or XYZ, but just start the conversation really simple. I'm a photographer. Like, sorry, this is kind of random and out of the blue, like speak to the process, because it is kind of strange and awkward when you first approach someone about a question like this. And for me, it was, believe me, like my heart was pumping when I was doing this. It didn't, like, was not natural for me. It isn't easy. This isn't like my default personality to like talk to strangers, trust me. But I did it because this is what I had in my mind that I wanted, is I wanted to be able to shoot a couple on this beach, and that was my passion. And so I overcame, that like 5 minutes of being terrified to actually make this happen. And it's worth it. It's always been worth it for me to do things that are scary. And they kind of looked at me, and they looked at each other, and they said, you know what, that would be so fun. We are actually on our honeymoon. I was like, yes, jackpot, perfect. Couples on their honeymoon. Like, this is great. And they were like, actually, yeah, we didn't even like our wedding photos that much. Like, we would love to take photos here. I said, awesome, great. Second really strange, random question. I have this wedding dress. How would you feel about putting it on and wearing it in these photos? Would that be something that you'd be interested in? And Martina looked at me, and she's like, well, would it fit me? And, like, before I had approached this couple, like I had ascertained by her body shape that the dress that I had with me probably would fit her. So I anticipated that this question would be coming. And I said, you know, yeah, like it's a convertible dress. It fits, you know, size 2 to 8 or 10. And it's, you know, and I think it would fit you great. You know, it like stretches, it's like a kind of one size fits many different type of dress. And she was all about it. She was like, heck yeah, sure, no problem. So they were like, okay, you want to do it at this beach tomorrow, like at sunset? Sure. So we exchanged WhatsApp information. WhatsApp, if you don't know what it is like used all over the rest of the world. Americans don't really use it so much, but I use it a ton when I travel to like talk to people that I meet, because it's a simple kind of messaging app that's like worldwide, you know, because texting doesn't always work. You don't always want to Facebook friend everybody. It's that nice, like pretty easy way to like connect with people around. So we exchanged WhatsApp information, and we were kind of messaging and kind of coordinating, setting it up. And they said, oh, like, it's not gonna work out tomorrow, but where are you going next? Well, I was like, I'm going to Santa Teresa. And so they were like, oh, we're going to Santa Teresa too. Well, why don't we do it there in a few days? So that's actually what we did. But I had originally planned on doing the shoot like just the next day. So, I mean, literally, that is the amount of planning that went into this shoot that you see here, still on my blog, still bringing in SEO, still bringing in inquiries, like from that much effort. A $20 Amazon dress that I had shoved in my backpack, 5 minutes of being terrified of asking asking a random couple who was actually there. And, you know, I saw many couples, and this is the couple that I approached because my spidey senses said that they were like in a long-term committed relationship, and they, you know, looked like they were people that I could, you know, they looked like they were tourists who were on vacation that might have the time for something like this. And so, yeah, so let me just pause really quick and look at questions really quick and see where we're at with that. So, oh, cool. Where did I get the flowers? Yeah, sweet, good question. So I can continue my story. So the flowers I got on the side of like a parking lot. Like there was like an abandoned lot that was, I think, next to like some dumpsters, like near the beach. And it was like, there was, I mean, this particular like shrubbery and growth was just like everywhere. It was this big natural area. It was not like, obviously not like a national park, a state park, any kind of protected space. Obviously, like I'm not advocating picking flowers, but you know, from an abandoned lot next to a bunch of dumpsters where there was just, you know, hundreds of these bushes, you know, so I basically kind of foraged for this bouquet on my own, and I put it together. And so I found some twine from, I remember like looking around at different like stores in town of like anything that I could use to put together a bouquet. I did have my trusty, where is it? This I don't go anywhere with. Where is this? I don't go anywhere without my, oh, that's loud. I don't go anywhere without my Leatherman pocket knife. So I had something at least to you know, use for foraging. And I ended up just like wrapping it I think actually I found a roll of like electrical tape, I think is what I ended up using to like strap all these things together. So yeah, I foraged for those flowers myself. And I added like some dead, like some palm leaves that I had found laying on the ground. And that's how the flowers happened. It doesn't have to be a florist. It doesn't have to be really complicated. I would suggest it is a really good idea. And I took one of the local florists that I actually work with a lot for elopements. Their names are Lace and Lilies in Fort Collins, Colorado, and they do floral workshops, and they teach you how to make bouquets, how to make flower crowns. And I've actually taken some of their classes, and it's been like it's been a great investment. Our ROI of like, if I, you know, I don't feel like it's impossible for me to like cobble together a bouquet based on foraging things in places that that's legal and ethical and okay to do. Don't pick wildflowers. And so, and so that's been awesome. But I don't even think that I had taken that class when I put this bouquet together, but I was like, I think it'd be fun to have a bouquet. Let's see what I can find. Oh, look, here's a bunch of dumpsters, abandoned lot. This will work. So, yeah, so I was staying at like a yoga hostel. And so we agreed to meet like, you know, 30 minutes before the shoot. She's like, how do you want to do my hair? So we were just kind of like putting her hair together, figuring out how it wanted to go. She wasn't wearing any makeup, which she's not a makeup wearing person. Stefan was like, I didn't really bring any fancy clothes. Like, will this work? And it's like, sure. Like, why not? You know, this has like a really sweet, like casual vibe. No, it's not perfectly styled. I don't have a huge arbor or a big installation or like fancy decor, but like, you know, this was incredibly fun. I had an absolute blast doing this, and it was so fun to meet up with a brand new couple who were just traveling for fun on their honeymoon, and to be able to set up this shoot and, you know, to be able to capture them. And like, they all have these memories and have these photos. Oh, it's important when you reach out to couples, like, again, having a business card helps a ton to be like, yes, this is like a legitimate offer, and like I will give you guys the photos for free, and like if you can pull up your Instagram and show, or your website, or show people like what a good photographer you are. Like I have actually never had someone say no and say nope, not interested, that's really not for me. It takes a little, you know, you want to make sure you ask the right people who look like they, you know, aren't like super busy rushing around, like, you know, maybe locals that will have to work, but like tourists who are on vacation and just like hanging out and don't have a really set schedule, like most of the time, like, you know, being like, oh, a free photo shoot in this beautiful place that we're at, like dream come true, awesome, let's do it. So I have done this in Myanmar. Actually at this place called Bagan, which I don't know if you guys know what Bagan looks like. And I was traveling there, and I had that dress from Two Birds Bridesmaids with me, and I set up this shoot with a couple there, and it was unbelievably beautiful and just so fun. And I ended up meeting them because we were sitting on one of these temples at sunrise, looking at the sunrise happen, and they were sitting right next to us, and we just got to talking. And, you know, I heard that they had gotten married, you know, like a year or so before, and it was like, ding ding, like I have this dress with me, any chance you guys think this would be fun to do? So yeah, super fun. I've done this all over the place. And yeah, this dress, this one from Two Birds Bridesmaids that I bought from Beholden, I think I've gotten the absolute most mileage out of it. It has been everywhere. Like it came back with like the bottom 6 inches of it completely black from from Cuba, because I drug it all the way through the streets of Havana, and it got so dirty. This dress is a tank. I just throw it in the wash. I soak it in bleach for like 2 days, and then I throw it in the wash, and it's still going. I still have it. It's, you know, so this is like that's a really easy, like just simple way to be able to put shoots together. So I'll show a few more things that I brought with me to Hawaii, because I'm doing another one here for fun, because so I have a real elopement here, and a day before session with a couple who has hired me to be here. But there's, you know, another spot, like I can't get enough of like exploring different places, being able to shoot different places. So I've had this like one spot that I've always wanted to shoot here, and, you know, the couple that had their elopement here has like, as you know, their day is looking differently than would fit perfectly for this spot. And so I was like, you know, I'm trying to make it happen. So some of you might have seen the model call that I put out for Kauai. And so that worked out. A couple from Maui is actually going to fly over, and we're gonna do the shoot. So a couple other things that I brought with me. I personally like the look of suspenders. I think if you throw some suspenders with just like a normal dress shirt and with some just like khakis, or, you know, I personally like the more casual look specifically for elopements. I love the fact that with elopements, it doesn't have to be a giant ball gown and a tux for it to feel wedding-y. I personally love the more kind of boho, relaxed, casual style. And so I got this like pair of kind of tan leather suspenders. And I've used this for, I don't know, maybe a shoot or two in the past of just like adding a little extra like styled element to it. And, you know, these kind of things are kind of sometimes hard to find locally, the exact style you want. And like they pack really small and they aren't hard to travel with. And so I don't even know if we'll use these or not on the shoot, but I brought them with me. I also thought, particularly for Hawaii, this bow tie might be cute. So I brought that with me. And what else? So I know that there was a question on the Facebook post about, okay, you know, I will admit, like, these really cheap kind of convertible dresses from Amazon aren't necessarily like the fanciest style, like the most unique, something that's really going to stand out in your portfolio. So it depends what you're looking for. You're looking for something that's easy, accessible, that you can like create many different shoots and like it will work, and you can tie it many different ways. You can get different looks. You can add things like these, you know, caplets and jackets and like get different styles, make it more styled. But someone asked the question, I can't remember how they phrased it exactly. Let me look at my notes of how they actually phrased it. They said, what did they say? Yeah, they said, you know, it wasn't unique enough. It wasn't like a cool enough dress. And like they had looked on for Amazon dresses before, because that had been a suggestion, but it didn't like strike their fancy, and they like photographing cooler stuff. So yes, the answer is yes, you can find really affordable other types of dresses besides this convertible dress solution. An example is this. This is a knockoff dress that I found on Amazon, which I brought with me, which I don't know if it's going to fit this couple or not, which is why I brought a couple of options, but it's really cool. So I'm going to turn off screen so you can see this. So this dress, it has this cool like open back with these little straps, and I can't remember, it might have been a knockoff of like a really expensive Free People dress, and in several different colors. And so it has it's like a halter, and then it has these cool straps on the back, and it's like this really kind of boho skirt thing. So I'm really excited about this one. And it has a really unique look. Like, this isn't the type of dress that you would see every day. It's definitely different than that really simple convertible style. And again, like, you can find dresses that would work for a shoot many different places besides bridal stuff. And so, you know, it doesn't have to be this kind of crazy, long, complicated. You don't have to work with a specific dress designer, like get an actual wedding dress on loan. I personally love having like several that are just mine, that I can take with me whenever I want. If they get dirty or damaged or ruined, that's completely okay. I don't have to worry about sending it back or giving it back to someone. And personally, like I maybe it's just me, but I don't feel the need and feel like, I feel like a shoot happening is, you know, infinitely better than it not happening. And so if, you know, I'm just not about creating extra barriers. They're going to make something extra complicated, or feel like, oh, I can't put together a shoot if it's not perfect, if it's not like it's perfectly styled. I think the more the better. The more content you have, the more experience that you have, the more photos that you have that are going to showcase your talent as a photographer and your ability to like find cool locations and like photograph couples beautifully, the better. So in my opinion, whatever works is the right answer, personally. So let's look at a few more questions. Oh, let's see, there's some questions here in the chat. Let's look at this. Bagan is very cool, highly recommend. I haven't looked into it recently, but I'm pretty sure Myanmar might still be like a not super ethical place to travel to. We kind of went in the window before the genocide that's been happening lately has been happening. So just want to make a note of that, like look into that before you travel there if it's ethical. So cool. What if you don't find couples on your travels? Do you put Insta story calls looking for couples, and does it work? So yes, great question. So we'll just kind of build this up like level by level. So that's like the most last minute way, easiest, simple way. You've literally planned nothing before you've gone on a trip. And I did title this Easy Portfolio Building While Traveling. So we'll start with like the easiest, simplest solutions and kind of build up. Because yes, of course you can plan longer, you can put out model calls. So a really, really good tip for finding couples via Instagram, if you're already there and you want to figure out who is also there, is to browse through location tags on Instagram. So let's see, like right now, if I wanted to find like a couple who's on Kauai right now. So if I look for Kauai, hashtag Kauai, so that it has like, I don't know if you can see this, probably not. Okay, 2.5 million posts. I'm gonna look at, instead of looking at top, I'm gonna look at recent. So I can scroll through all of the recent posts in Kauai, and I'm just gonna look for couples. I'm gonna look if there's any couples that have posted selfies recently on Kauai. And I actually did this. I did this method before when I was in Koh Phi Phi, Thailand. I don't know if anyone else has been there. So kind of in the Thai islands, I wanted to do a shoot on the beach in Maya Bay, and so I scrolled through the recent hashtags when I was on Koh Phi Phi, and I messaged, I don't know, maybe 25, 30 couples. It's a pretty popular tourist spot, and I saw a whole lot of couples that looked like they were tourists traveling, like posting selfies on Koh Phi Phi. And so here's a couple right here that looks super cute and looks like they're tourists on Kauai that I just found. And it says like, she's captioned it, one of the prettiest places I've ever seen, an hour ago on the Nepali coast in Kauai. So she'd be like, if I was looking for a couple right now, she'd be a great person to like reach out and message on Instagram. And it's, again, like, yes, you're doing a weird thing, you're messaging a stranger, say like, hey, like, I know this is really random and out of the blue, and like, but I'm a photographer. Like, I saw that you recently posted that you're on Kauai. I'm on Kauai right now. I'm looking for a couple who might be interested in some free photos. I would really like to photograph a couple in XYZ location. Are you guys still, well, the thing with Instagram is a lot of people later gram but don't say they're later gramming. And so they might not actually still be on the island. Say like, are you still here? You know, are you available tomorrow or in 2 days? And like, would you like some free photos? Like I'm messaging a few couples, you know, just in case you aren't available. So, you know, let me know as soon as you can. Really simple. Thing with Instagram, know that like you can't necessarily direct copy and paste the exact same message to 25 strangers at once. They will block you from that. So type out unique messages and then it won't block you. That's a cool tip with that. So searching recent hashtags on Instagram is a great way to do it, because you can like directly, instead of putting out a call and hoping someone who happens to be on Kauai right at that moment sees your Instagram story and contacts you, you can break down that barrier by looking through geo tags. So I was looking through a hashtag, but you can also look through geo tags of people who are geotagging like an island, but also look for people geotagging exact spots near where you actually are in that country. That's going to be better than just like looking at Thailand as a whole is massive. Like look at, you know, Chiang Mai or Koh Phi Phi, like the actual place that you're in, the city or the national park or wherever. Like the more specific and the more targeted, the better. so if you don't literally walk into someone and ask them and it works out, then kind of the next level above that is scrolling through hashtags, scrolling through geotags, and like reaching out to people via Instagram is another great way to do it. What if you are in a remote location? How can you find couples? I would say, so Blanc Corazon, maybe explain what you mean by remote, like how remote, as in you're going in the middle of the wilderness that there are literally no humans, or what do you mean by remote? Like, would you call Kauai remote? Would you call Alaska remote? Like, how remote are you talking here? So I would say, if you're going to like, let me think about that. So if I was in, one of the most remote places I've been is deep in Denali National Park in Alaska. There's not a whole lot of people in Alaska in general. Oh, that's funny. I was looking on like a hiking forum in Alaska, and they're like, this trail is so busy, and I was like, oh, I don't want to go to a busy trail. And I actually went and checked it out, and there was like one total other person on the trail. I think if you're hiking in Alaska and you see anyone else, it's a busy trail, which is funny, because in Colorado, that's not what a busy trail means. And so if I wanted to do like a shoot in this location that you had to back to in Denali, like that's freaking remote. I would still do the same thing. If I was, I would look for people when I was there, if I was doing it last minute, or I would scroll through the geotags or the hashtags of like Denali National Park in general, or like the nearest towns, and look for other tourists that might be on their route. That's for this last minute things. Again, we can go step up of like how you can plan stuff before you get there, how you can plan stuff a few weeks out, a few months out. So we'll get to that in a second. Yeah, Lulu, someone says Lulu's is great for white maxi dresses. Yes, you can find really awesome dresses on Lulu's that are super cheap, and you can get a lot of different styles. And also I really personally love non-white dresses, and I wish that like more people used colored stuff for elopements. It's funny, like as non-traditional as everything else on elopement day is, almost everyone still wears white and like holds on to that tradition. I mean, I did for my elopement day. I wore a white dress too. I guess it's just one of those things that's harder to stray from tradition with, but every time I've gotten to photograph a non-white dress, it's been very exciting anyway. So if you want to, maybe here we go. Maybe if I want to photograph more of them, I should do more shoots with non-white dresses. So, all right. Rebecca says, when you plan other shoots at the same locations as your already planned elopements, do you still charge your elopement couple the full travel fee? Or if you book multiple elopement couples at the same location, do they all pay the same fee that's included in your packages? Do you give discounts if you book within your travel calendar? So Rebecca, that's a great question. It's slightly off topic of portfolio building while traveling. That's more like, I did have a couple of people ask questions on the post about how you get hired to photograph a destination elopement, which I would love to talk about. But that's a really different question than like getting paid to photograph another elopement or other shoots that you're getting paid for, like, and getting hired by actual clients to do is a topic that I would really love to cover, but I can't right now because I'm already an hour in somehow again, and I haven't finished what I wanted to talk about yet. So, but really quickly, so I'm not leaving you hanging. So like for this couple that I had, this has hired me to photograph their elopement in Kauai. They booked me first. They booked me a long time ago. Because they booked me to, and I planned all my travel around that. It was like, okay, they booked me for Hawaii. So like that whole week essentially is blocked out. I don't like to do too many crazy back-to-backs. That's not entirely true, but for Hawaii in March, I didn't feel like doing crazy back-to-backs. So so yes, they were charged a full travel fee. I have not booked another paid shoot here. They're doing it like a day before session, and elopement for this trip specifically, they're my only paying clients. So these other fun shoots that I'm doing, these couples aren't being charged for that. So it's because I want to, it's fun. So, okay, so sorry if I didn't answer that fully, Rebecca. getting hired and paid to like, you know, within your travel schedule and getting hired to photograph destination elopements is a topic I would love to teach on, but I'm trying to stick to those topics, so sorry about that. How often do you do these shoots? Is it only when traveling? Do you only do them for new locations? I would say in general, yes, I do them for new spots because I think that it is fun. And I think that it's different. You know, I've done a huge amount of work where I already live in Colorado. I've photographed, I don't even know how many elopements in Colorado. So for me, I like the excitement of going to a new place and getting new, different, diverse stuff in my portfolio. And I think that having diversity in your portfolio is a great way to, you know, for someone to be able to look at, wow, like this photographer, she can shoot in mountains and she can shoot on beaches and she can shoot in canyons and she can shoot with waterfalls. And, you know, they have confidence that you have worked in all types of different diverse scenery and diverse areas. And for me as a destination elopement photographer, that experience and that portfolio has been really helpful to be able to convince couples of my level of experience and my confidence of being able to help them with their day. So let's see. I found people posting on feeds usually post when they've left the location, but on Insta stories, it's immediate and they're still likely to be there. Sorry, it's cutting off your name. It says Nat, or maybe it might be Natalie. So yes, that is another, thanks for mentioning that. I forgot to mention that. You can also look for that with people's Insta stories in those locations. And yes, it is. I mean, think about how you use Instagram when you travel. Are you always posting on your feed at the exact same time that you were there, or are you posting stories that are more relevant? So that little location, little sticker that you can put on your story, a lot of people put those on stories like as they're actually there. So that's a super good tip for it being more likely that you're messaging someone who's actually still there instead of someone who was there 4 days ago. So super good tip. That was great. Use Facebook groups. What does BST stand for? I use Facebook BST. I feel like I know what that means. What does it stand for? I forget. Buy, sell, trade. Oh yeah, that's what that means. Wow. Okay, I'm not with that today. Use Facebook buy, sell groups for reaching to find couples ahead of time. Added benefit of having them add me on Facebook to make sure there aren't a serial killer rate. That's a good thing. So yes, let's move from, okay, so those are some good ideas of how to do these things easily, quickly, last minute, put shoots together, be able to get stuff in your portfolio without putting a huge amount of effort and spending a huge amount of time and money and it being just unattainable. Like they're happening. You can make shoots happen really easily that look great and that you can really leverage very well for your portfolio. But what are some good ways of finding couples ahead of time? And yes, I have also, you know, seen like, okay, I'm traveling to XYZ place in 3 or 4 months. Like, how can I make, you know, I really want to make sure that I get to do a shoot there. And so I want to plan it ahead of time. So what are some good ways to do that? So I don't know why it's cutting off everyone's names. It's very annoying. I can't exactly tell who's who. It just says car at the beginning. Pretty sure your name is not car. So sorry about that. It's just cutting off names. And so how do you do that? So Facebook groups were mentioned, and I have found that to be a really, really good way to find people. So yes, looking for local groups. So you're saying you can use buy, sell, trade groups. I've actually found local photographer groups and local, for me and for the genre of elopements that I do, local hiker groups are really the gold mine, where you can find people who might be willing to go out on a limb with you, who like to adventure for the sake of adventuring and like want to go on a hike and do like something a little more interesting and kind of crazy and fun, of like hiking a cool hike to a new place. Like, it's easier to find couples that might be up for that sort of thing if you're looking in a local hikers group. So searching Facebook for different groups and joining them is a great way to do things. Like, I'm in hikers groups all over the country, and I have joined them in other countries as well. So It's from a searching standpoint, it's really helpful to, to think about how groups work in your region and then kind of apply that to the rest of the world. So if you're looking for a hiking group in Italy, it's unlikely that you're going to find a really useful group that's like Italy hikers. Italy is a huge country. Like imagine like USA hikers. Like sure, there might be a group that, but it's like you're going to have people that are spread out all over the country. And if you're specifically looking for someone who would do something with you near Yosemite, like posting in a USA hikers group isn't necessarily like the amount of people that would be able to do that are going to be way over here. So looking for, someone who's in like the nearest big cities, like looking for hikers groups in Southern California, or looking for hikers groups near the big cities, near that area of Yosemite. Like I'm in Washington hikers and climbers group. That's a fun group, by the way. I found some cool locations in that group. And you can do the same thing. So look for, if instead of Italy, look for South Trail hikers in the Dolomites if you're looking for something really specific versus like Italy. So the more specific and the more targeted look at local cities and local regions and national parks, and like, think about how that might translate in the area that you're in, and like kind of apply that when you're looking at that for other countries or for other regions. So think of, hopefully that makes sense when you're kind of searching Facebook for different keywords. And oftentimes it's like, try different keywords, try different cities, try hike, try hiker, try hiking, try hikes when you're searching for different areas, and join as many groups as you can. Don't spam people, but make sure that you read the rules and make sure that it's okay to ask for what you're posting. So Facebook groups are a super good way to do that. Another good thing to reach out and do is with photographer groups. So believe it or not, actually some of the easiest things that it's been able for me to set up ahead of time, as far as like a few months out, and to have a couple who's like actually going to show up and have some stake in it, is that was another question that a bunch of people were asking, is like, how do you get a couple to actually show up, in the sense that they had tried to set up these kind of portfolio building shoots before and they had people bail on them last minute. So that used to happen to me, and there's a couple of things that I've done to help make sure that doesn't happen anymore. A few things that have happened. One is actually trading a shoot with another photographer. I've never had someone cancel on that for me before, in the sense of like, hey, let's trade shoots, in a sense of like, they're getting something out of it from both directions. They're getting photos and they're getting to take photos. And so if you're traveling somewhere, like let's say you wanted to travel to Scotland, and you were like, I really want to photograph a couple in Scotland, I would definitely suggest, nicely reaching out and seeing if there's any local Scottish photographers that, hey, like maybe there's a husband-wife team that, they would like some photos. And in addition to just offering to trade couple shoots, or, I travel a lot by myself. So sometimes the whole offering to trade shoots thing, like they don't get to photograph me with my person. So that isn't necessarily benefiting them. So instead of trading shoots, you can also offer like additional photos for them for something that they need, in a sense of like, most photographers always need an updated headshot or updated shots for their site, and be able to say, hey, like, your work is great. Like, I'm really looking to be able to photograph a couple, like, would you mind, can we set up a couple shoot? And in addition to that, I would, whatever you have in mind, your full vision for, let's say, some new shots for your branding, for your site, some headshots for you, like, I'll make that happen too. And so instead of reaching out, only asking for something that's going to benefit you in the end, you might get more resistance from that, from a local photographer, like, I don't want to help you build your portfolio in my area, which is fine. And so being able to say, okay, and like, hey, like, your site is great. I always feel like I need updated headshots. Any chance you guys do too? Like, what is your vision? What's a spot that you would want to go and get like a sweet new headshot? Like, we can do that, and then we can take some couples photos there, win-win for everybody. So if you're traveling by yourself and you can't trade shoots, then you can offer additional shoots. If you are traveling with your partner and you can offer for them to get to photograph you as well, like, you know, how many of you, if like, let's say you were reached out to by like an Australian photographer wherever you live locally in the US, most of the people in our group are in the US, so I'm using US examples here, sorry. And so, you know, they said, hey, like, I really want to photograph a couple in Yosemite. Let's say you live next to Yosemite, and, you know, you might be a little bit resistant to that at first, but what if then if they also said, hey, oh, sorry, that was not the example that I wanted to go. If a couple of photographers came from Yosemite and said, came from Australia. Wow, I'm really messing up this example. Start over, Maddie. Let's say you're a local photographer to Yosemite. There was a couple who were a husband and wife team, Australian photographers, who came to you and said, hey, like, I would really like to photograph a couple in Yosemite. Would you model for us? Would you and your husband model for us? Like, there's a certain amount of likelihood that you might be willing to do that for them. Like, go out of your way, dress up, you know, go and like, yeah, you are getting photos, but maybe you already have photos there. And so, but what would it be like if they said, and like, we are perfectly willing to model for you wherever you want. Any kind of spot that you've dreamed of photographing a couple that you haven't gotten to do a shoot yet, like, we're willing to do the same back to you. Like, I feel like that's a situation a local photographer is much more likely to say yes to, because you've offered them something, like that couple's offered you something really beneficial in return. If you're traveling as a couple, that is a great way to do it if your partner is willing to model with you. My husband is like, he hates photos, so we've never gotten to be able to do that. So I normally take the other approach, which is say, hey, so essentially it would be that, a single Australian photographer coming to Yosemite and saying, I'd like to photograph you. And what other photo needs do you have? Anything that you want? Like, do you need new headshots in XYZ place? Do you need some branding stuff? Do you want, stuff with your family or your parents, or like, is there anything else that I can offer to you to make this worth your time? Like, I think sometimes offering free photos isn't enough to get someone to show up. And so giving them something else that's really valuable to them, that they're going to feel incentivized to make sure that they show up, I think is important. So the other thing that I've done to make sure that couples show up, is, sometimes it's definitely worth offering some additional cash to cover gas, to cover like a night of lodging. I've found that it doesn't take a whole lot of money to offer someone to make sure that they show up and say yes. And so saying like, I will cover like a night or two of lodging in Yosemite, or I'll cover and plus gas, like it's a lump sum of like this amount, because I understand you're taking time out of your busy day, you're driving down here, you're doing XYZ. And so that, as far as ROI, I've always found to be very good, very useful, as far as like, you can do a lot with like a couple $100 or less, and covering, and so in that sense, you're offering someone a free weekend trip to Yosemite, essentially. And they're a lot more likely to do that. So here's a tip also to make people, to ensure that people show up when they say they're going to, is if you are paying for someone's gas or lodging as part of like thanking them for showing up and being models for something that you're using to build your portfolio, get a contract with them. You can, like, I absolutely suggest having a contract. Anytime like money or anything or services are exchanged, it, like, even for trading shoots, it just lines out everything really clearly. You officially need a model release from anyone that you photograph. And so you might as well have a contract that just lays it out and sets expectations right up front. And so I have a modeling contract that essentially it's not anywhere near as intense as like my elopement contract, but it has a model release. It explains like exactly how many free photos I will be delivering them by what date, so that they have expectations. so that they know, like, you know, hey, like the turnaround time might not be as fast as it would be for an XYZ paying client, but it's going to be within this period of time, and it will be a minimum of this many images. Like, set expectations up front, and say, like, this is what you're getting. I'm providing XYZ. You guys are providing this. This is the model release. Sign. Everyone's crystal clear on it. And since I've started doing contracts for people who are going to model for mentor sessions and people who are going to model for portfolio building shoots or for trading shoots or for XYZ, I've not had an issue with people canceling on me. So that's a really good way of doing that. So, oh, someone also said also expat groups on Facebook are good for organizing in advance. Yes, totally. Great. Looking through geotags. Yeah, sorry, I'm reading through the comments here really quick, guys. You're in Alaska, Jamie. Yes, I did. I loved Alaska. Unbelievable. Denali. Oh, that place was amazing. It changed my life. We were there in August and there was just blueberries everywhere. I've never eaten so many wild blueberries in my life. It was so fun. Cool. What also? Yeah, backpacker groups. Yes, backpacker groups, hiker groups. Like, think of Facebook groups that you'd be likely to find couples who are up for something fun and spontaneous and random. And I feel like hikers and backpacker climber groups are full of those kind of people. Do you ever do portfolio building sessions at sunrise? Have you had people agree to this? Yeah, definitely. Especially more like hikers and backpackers being able to say, hey, like, I have this idea. What if we got to this spot at sunrise and there was no one else there? We hiked up in the dark. Like, and to an average couple, like, that's kind of a crazy idea, but to like a hiker, they'd be like, wow, that would be such a fun experience. Like, if they're the type of person who is going out there and getting after it and like hiking and exploring on their own anyway, then being like, wow, like this photographer is like wants to do that with us and then give us photos of us in our element. And, you know, and yeah, we'll have to get up early, but it's fun. We're adventurous. Like, we like doing these things already. So again, I think being able to, I think the more specific, the better. The more targeted, like close, like location-wise that you can target people, whether you're on Facebook groups or Instagram, and also think about groups that would more likely have like your target market of couples who would be interested in doing the kind of shoot that you want to do. So if you're looking for a couple who would do something interesting, like model for like an underwater shoot with you, like look at like local scuba diving groups, like more likely to find someone in there versus like anyone locals group, if that makes sense. The more targeted, the better when you're looking for models and when you're looking for couples, by the way. So, hi, Maddie. I was all sure about asking you this, but I'm gonna anyway. You're putting on a workshop in Chile in the desert. I'd love to have me there. Am I taking on any events? Would I want to do that? Barbara, feel free to email me, and we can talk about that. I don't know if that would work out this year, but definitely shoot me an email. Cool. Sorry, let's see what else. I found a lovely photog couple in your Wanderlust group. They were in Germany. We met up in New Zealand. They had just gotten engaged there before. It was a blast. That's awesome. Yes. Oh my gosh. This is the other thing that I wanted to tell everyone on this live today. So whoever has been here for a while, do you remember that we had that awesome travel map that was searchable as like a map view of like you could put in your date range and you could see on a map where everyone else in the group was going to be, and it made it so much easier to like set up connections with people. So when I redid my site, that page on my site hasn't gotten recoded and redone, and so it's not working right now. I'm fixing it. I'm getting it up. So we're going to have a brand new travel map that works, that everyone can put in for this year, all of their travel dates, where they're traveling to. There's a spreadsheet view, there's a calendar view, and there's a map view, and they all sync and they all talk to each other. So you can literally look at a world map and like move sliders around for a date range and be able to see like what other people are going to be already in, like living there or traveling to the spot that you're going to, which is so cool, because I feel like that is one of the posts, like those are the kind of posts that you see all the time in Facebook groups of like, I'm going to be XYZ, like I need a couple, like it's a common problem, like everyone's looking for people to go out and play and adventure with them and be, you know, models for photo shoots. And so I would love to like make more of those connections happen in the Facebook group. So I'm gonna like, within the next week, we're gonna have a fully functioning, awesome travel map that everyone can dive into and use to collaborate. So it'll be an extra awesome tool to be able to set all these things up hopefully a lot easier. So we'll have one for where people live, and we'll have one for where people are traveling to. So I'm going to separate them out so you have two different maps. So you can search both of like, if you're looking for like locals in an area who like know and live there. And then if you're looking for people who might be traveling for to certain spots, we'll have two different maps, both fully searchable. I'm really stoked about this. So we're going to get that up and working again, which I'm really excited about. So great. Kara, I'm so glad that that worked out for you. That's awesome. Allison says, I always reach out to local photographers when I travel and offer to trade shoots. It's great because I can build my portfolio and have sweet pictures of my husband and I. That's awesome. I wish so much that my husband was up for that, but no, like, no. The only photos that we've had taken together is a couple are at our elopement. So yeah, I'm pretty introverted, but he is at least 10 times more than me, which is great and fine, and I love him obviously. So, but I sometimes wish that it would be so fun and a little easier to set up some stuff sometimes if he would take photos with me, but that's fine. I don't love being in front of the camera either, if I'm perfectly honest. So, cool. All right, I see people in the chat like setting up shoots. This is awesome. I love it. Cool. Would I be able to share my modeling contract? I have been advised by my lawyer not to share actual clauses and actual contracts with people because of liability. So I can't do that, unfortunately, but I'd be happy, Allison, to give you like a rundown of like what, like all of it is in it. So feel free. I can kind of give you an outline of what's in it, which would hopefully what you are looking for. Is it, if you're saying you think yours is overkill, you probably just have some stuff to cut out. So, but overkill, like, can a contract be overkill? Possibly, but if the purpose of a contract is to make it feel really official and set and to get couples to show up, like if yours is longer than mine, is that a problem? Not necessarily. You might not need to change it. Be careful for bears when you're picking berries. Yeah, we saw a lot of bears in Alaska. Oh, I need to plug in my computer. It's gonna die. Let's see. Done a few shoots when you travel. I'm looking for any other questions I can answer here, guys, but it's awesome that you guys are talking to each other in the chat. I love it. I've done a few shoots with couples. One couple just got engaged and booked me to photograph their wedding in Scotland. That's awesome. Yeah, and that's, oh my gosh, I have created so many cool relationships with couples like around the world you can stay friends with afterwards. I want to tell you something really quick about Stefan and Martina, that couple that I randomly stopped on a beach in Costa Rica. They actually live in Austria. They're Austrian. And about a year later, when I was traveling through Switzerland, I, was like, oh, I might go to Austria too. Do I know anyone who's in Austria? And I was like, oh my gosh, Stefan and Martina. And I messaged them again on Facebook, and I set up another shoot with them in Austria. I had no idea who they were. Turns out like they actually had like, it was crazy how this worked out. They had like an amazing little mountain chalet, like on a ski resort in one of the most beautiful parts of Austria. So they're like, yeah, come stay, like we'll do another shoot there. And so we did, and it was unbelievable. It was so cool. Like, oh yeah, I saw you guys a year ago in Costa Rica and randomly, like right after you on a beach, and asked you to be models for me. And now like I'm traveling to Austria, and we set it up beforehand, and like I got to do another shoot with them in a totally new location, stay in their sweet chalet in Austria. I mean, it was just, they're the coolest people, and like you can make really cool relationships. And I can think about the couples that I've worked with like around the world and what are they doing, and you can kind of maintain these cool relationships with them and like work with them over time. And absolutely, I think if you were to do this a lot and travel a lot, I know for sure that like if Stefan and Martina knew someone who was wanting to do something active and adventurous and outdoorsy in Austria, like they would probably recommend me. They'd say, hey, I know this American chick, like I don't know if she's traveling here anytime soon, but if she is, you should contact her. So those kind of relationships, again, like there's more benefit to you than just the photos. And so, you know, really creating real good, strong relationships with people, like being nice to people, following through, delivering images, and maintaining those kind of long-lasting relationships. And you know that can come back to you many more ways than just in blogging and SEO and in your portfolio juice. So cool, awesome. I'm gonna scroll through the rest of these, see if there's any other questions I can answer for you guys. Melissa says, I was looking for couples to model in Iceland, and I actually got hired for a honeymoon session for a couple traveling in Reykjavik by there. Yeah, absolutely. A really good, so if you, this is a great tip because I've had this happen before. If you find a great Facebook group to post like a model call in, and you're getting way more interest than you have time for, like once you've picked someone to be like the couple for like the particular shoot that you're interested in, that you have in your mind of this idea and this vision that you want to carry out, you can reach back out to those other couples and say, hey, like I have filled the need that I had for this particular shoot, but I wanted to thank you so much for being interested, and I wanted to give you a special offer for a couple session for this rate, or for a vow renewal or a honeymoon session, or for XYZ. So portfolio building shoots and like making those connections and getting in those Facebook groups can not only help you find couples who are willing to model for you for free, but also couples who might be willing and might be interested in paying you for when you're there. So you can do that as well. Sometimes that works really, really great. Okay, sorry about that. I do not know what just happened with the Wi-Fi here. So it's actually a few hours later here, guys, because the Wi-Fi crapped out on me in the middle of the last one. So sorry about that. Well, I'll just go ahead and wrap this up. I had a few more things to talk about. So I just want to make sure I cover all the questions, make sure I get everything answered for everybody. So someone had asked, something to the effect of, one, do I use when I say that I'm looking for models for a styled shoot when I'm traveling, am I looking for models, or am I looking for real couples? And for me personally, I think there's something magical about photographing a real couple. I don't see the draw of photographing two beautiful people as a couple who aren't actually a couple. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just, for me personally, the way that I pose and like the magic of a couple shoot for me is that real intimacy, that real connection. I love that when a couple shows up to a photo shoot, they're showing up with a history, with a relationship, with months or years of knowing how they hug each other and kiss each other and connect with each other, and this deep history. And I love that my job as a photographer of couples is to bring them into a space where they feel free and safe to be themselves and connect in a way that's really authentic to them. And so for me personally, I can't imagine doing that with just two strangers who weren't a real couple. And so for me, I've never looked into that. So I'm always looking for real couples, like whether they've been together for a few weeks or a few months or a few years or 20 years, like that it being a real couple with a real relationship is important to me. So I'm always looking for a real couple. And then to add to that question, someone asked, would I consider someone's real elopement or real wedding day to be something that I could use for a styled shoot? And that is definitely where, me personally, I draw the line as a no. I personally don't feel that it's ethical to turn someone's wedding day into a styled shoot for your benefit. I think these kind of portfolio building shoots while traveling that you're trying to create and embody this vision that you have in your head to use as something that's going to propel your business forward and showcase your experience as a photographer. You can put it on your Instagram and your site, and use it to leverage that as a marketing opportunity. Not that you don't do that with couples who are really paying you, but it's more of an afterthought rather than like the whole purpose of why I don't photograph elopements for posting shots on Instagram and for the blog. I need to run an Instagram and I need to have SEO in order to continue to get hired, but it's not this like the purpose of it, if that makes sense. And so in a sense, when you're offering to photograph someone's elopement for free as a portfolio building opportunity, you're putting yourself and that couple both in a bad situation in the sense of, I don't think that it is going to end up well for the couple or for the photographer. And I've made this mistake before. And if the person who was asking me this question was me 8 years ago, and I was trying to give my younger self like the very best sane advice to like, make sure that, I didn't run into any heartache or feeling used or feeling undervalued for my work, I would absolutely give the exact same advice. Do not consider someone's real wedding day or real elopement as a portfolio building opportunity. I think that there's just something inherently wrong with that. It's their wedding day. It should look exactly how they want to. You can't control. It's an underlying mismatch to, because when you're offering to do these things as a portfolio building exercise, you have these expectations and you have this desire to control something and to enact out a vision because you know best as a photographer. And if you're running into a conflict with a couple where it's like, oh, well, we were thinking we were going to do our ceremony on the deck of this hotel because that's what we want to do. And if you had flown all the way to Costa Rica to shoot their elopement and didn't realize that, those kind of things are so easy to happen. Or the weather was terrible, or like the dress she was wearing wasn't perfectly in the right style that you were imagining. And it's like you end up coming away undervalued and the couple ends up feeling like you kind of maybe had to fight them the whole time as to like trying to turn their wedding day into a shoot for you. And so I just don't think it's a good situation for either party. And I think that it's like, that should be very separate. I definitely just don't think it ever ends up well for either person to try to turn the real day someone gets married, like that should be for them and them only. And the focus should be on capturing them exactly as they are, and they are the focus. They are the couple, like the day is about them. And so for photographing couples around the world for fun, and going on hikes with people and having fun experiences and fun memories and using that for portfolio building, wherein you have the time and it's not someone's wedding day, and you have the time to redo things and enact your vision and like really get it right and reschedule it if you need to, great and fine. I just think that you can't really do that with a day that someone's actually committing their life to their partner. Like I just think elopements and weddings are so important and just really shouldn't be. There's just too many priorities going on if you mix it like that. So I'm really not a fan at all of shooting elopements for free for portfolio building reasons. I think it's always a bad answer personally. So that's my own advice. So I have lots of thoughts on how you get, how to get paid to do those. And then your sole focus, because you've been hired by them, is to give them an incredible experience. And then you will get great images, which will build your portfolio. But you see, it's kind of, the focus is different. So to answer, like, can a real elopement be used as a styled shoot? My personal feeling and personal ethics on it are no. So let's just like kind of recap really, really quickly about like kind of the best ways to find couples. So that's like, can sometimes be the biggest barriers. So we've talked about trading sessions with another photographer if you are traveling as a couple, which is great because it's a win-win situation. We've talked about if you're traveling alone to, still ask local photographers and connect with them, offer extra headshots or branding shots or anything that they need in exchange. You can offer to, and if you're doing something like that, get a model contract in place, laying clearly out the expectations so that it's really clear what they're getting, what you're getting, and what the agreement is, and you have a contract and a model release, and it's just a lot more sure. And another thing that I forgot to mention is that it's actually worked for me before. you know, if you build real relationships with people and you come to people from a really genuine place of like, this is why I'm coming out here. Like, I'm based in Colorado, but I'm really interested in doing more work out here in Alaska. You know, people can respond in a way that's out of fear and out of competition. But if you just reach out to people and you're genuine and you're nice and you give them something in return and you thank them and you're grateful. I've actually been able to reach out to photographers and say, hey, like, do you have any past couples that you think were great and like that it would be a real gift to them to get an extra free shoot for their anniversary? Like, would you mind connecting me with them? And I'd be happy to send you a gift card or, you know, do some extra free headshots for you. So the photographer doesn't even have to take time out of their day with their partner to model for you. Maybe they know someone who, you know, maybe they had a couple that they're like, oh yeah, sure, like these guys are my friends. They'd be all over it. They'd love to do it. They already have wedding attire. You know, building real relations with local photographers. You know, if you come at it from a point of being grateful and, you know, building connections and building community and saying, hey, you know, if you ever come to Colorado, like, I am super happy to return the favor. Like, I have tons of past couples here. You know, I can show you some of my, some cool spots to shoot and like return it, you know, and I've had really good luck just building real friendships and making real connections with people, coming at it from just a thankful, grateful place, not a like, hey, I'm a big deal, you should do this because I'm me, which, like, I hate that mentality coming from anyone. And so I think that, yeah, so like for me, you know, local photographers can be some of the best resources of setting up these shoots as far as locations and vendors to work with and couples to find. If you build real relationships and maybe even collaborate with them, say, hey, why don't you and me create something really cool, and like we'll both shoot it and we'll both get the benefit out of it and both be able to blog it and have it in our portfolios. Let's pitch in, both you and me, you know, or like, since you're helping set up and plan it, like I will pay for it, and you know, work it out together. Like collaboration is just so key and so important here, and that can be just an awesome way to create something great. We talked about joining and looking at local Facebook groups, thinking across all in industries. Local photography groups can be great for connecting with those local photographers. I found really good luck with like local hiking groups, or you can look at climbing or backpacking or mountaineering, or, you know, another type of activity, rafting or paddleboarding or skiing, or, you know, think about the type of group that would have the type of person that might be up for what you're interested in. And so, you know, and if those kind of more specific groups aren't panning out, like, yeah, look at one of those local buy, sell, trade, you know, rummage swap groups that, you know, almost every city has, and like, you know, make sure you read the rules and don't cross any lines, but that can be great. And we talked about if you get too many responses from stuff like that, that you can, you know, you can filter those by, you know, having people fill out a questionnaire or apply. Someone asked in the Facebook group, like, what a model call that would be appropriate might look like. Like, how do you publicly, like in a Facebook group or something, ask for this without sounding inauthentic or scammy or anything like that. So my biggest suggestion is to, when you're doing a model call, is don't just write one and then cross post it in 20 different places. It really makes a difference to consider your audience for each and every single place that you post it. So for example, let's say you were trying to set up a shoot in Alaska and you found a local hiking group in Alaska. Like, I'm making this up, but let's say it's called Alaska Hikers. So you were gonna post a model call in Alaska Hikers, or let's call it, you know, Fairbanks Hikers, because that's probably more likely that you'd find a city of a bunch of people who wanted to hike and made a Facebook group for it. And so always tailor the model call to your audience. And a really important thing, not just for model calls, but for all of marketing, is to consider your audience and consider what they want and what they would be benefiting out of this. Most people do marketing in the sense of they're kind of, it's like marketing myopia. It's like the easiest thing to do, or you just have these kind of blinders on and you're just thinking about you and what you need and what you're looking for. And so you can put out a model call saying, hey, I'm a photographer. I need couples to model for the session. Anyone interested? That's one way to do a model call. A much more effective way to do a model call is to consider, okay, what group am I posting this in? I'm posting this in Fairbanks, Alaska hikers. All right, so this group is full of, potentially adventurous people. They like to hike, they hike a lot, like they enjoy the adventure part of thing. Like what kind of thing, what out of this shoot might they benefit in? Like what potential benefit could I offer them that they might actually be interested in? Like consider the audience that you're talking to. So for example, a model call that would be effective and appropriate to like a Fairbanks hiker group would be something like, hey, has anyone ever in here wished that they could, get some amazing photos like on one of these incredible hikes, like with their partner? Like anyone wants some like just incredibly rad Instagram shots for free? And be able to say, hey, like, start a model call with that question, just directly asking something that someone might actually be interested in and see as highly valuable. And then say, hey, I'm a photographer here. Like I'm looking for a really adventurous couple who's down for like a pretty crazy hiking photo shoot. You all seem pretty badass. Like I feel like this might be the right group to ask this in. To be really clear, like here is what you'll get. You'll get 50 free high resolution images within 6 weeks or whatever you want to say, and say, you'll have a really, you'll have a really fun experience, like on a great trail. Maybe you've been on it before, and then say, hey, comment if you're interested, post, give me like a recent fun photo of you two that showcases your personalities, and then let me know if you're already married or if you have wedding attire. Not required, I'm just curious, That would be a great model call that would probably get good response out of that specific Facebook group. But you wouldn't want to post that exact same thing in a group full of yogis or something else, like a buy-sell trade group. It wouldn't be appropriate. You're not necessarily speaking to something that they will see as highly valuable. Maybe if you were posting then again in like Fairbanks buy-sell trade, you would want to post something like, hey, anyone in here been in a relationship for a while and just like so frustrated that you don't have any really good photos of the two of you? Like me too, like, but hey, I'm a photographer. Like I happen to be traveling in this area and I'm looking for like a really in love couple who would just, who really wants awesome recent photos of the two of them doing XYZ, and so consider your audience, consider like what they would be getting. You're going to get way more response out of something like that versus, making it this big application and like, I'm this big Insta famous photographer, like you should know who I am, like apply. And so I'm all about just serving up the red platter, even for stuff that I'm not getting paid for. I want to connect with like the right people. And so always consider your audience, and I'm always just like engaging in situations that are a win-win, not just a one-sided beneficial thing. And so that's a great way to do a model call. So few other ways, that we've been over to make, I'm just recapping everything about how to find couples. We've gone over how you find them on Instagram, look at the hashtags, look at the geotags of both the feed posts and of the stories. Stories are going to be more recent and accurate. Another way that I didn't mention before was ask local business owners. Like if you're not finding any Facebook groups or anything, like how do you find someone who like lives there? I've done this before, is to like, a super tiny remote town and it's like, there's no local Facebook group. There's like, I don't know anyone that lives within 100 miles of a small town next to this one national park. And I'm looking for a local that is like gonna be there. I can't find any people who are traveling. It just is not working. Like, contact a business, and the ones that you might want to start with are ones that are used to talking to foreigners, that are used to talking to tourists, and maybe potentially getting kind of crazy requests like this in the past. Like reach out to a hostel, reach out to a hotel, reach out to like a yoga studio, a restaurant, a place that is like catering to and attracting to tourists, maybe has an English website, or maybe someone at least who speaks some English, and say, hey, like, this is really random. This is really out of the blues. As you're tapping, you're essentially walking up to someone on a trail and tapping them on the shoulder. They're not expecting you to reach out with this, but you can reach out. You can reach out to local business owners and say, hey, like, this is incredibly random, but I'm staying at your hotel while I'm visiting this national park. I'm a photographer. This is my website. Like, I'm legit. Check it out. Don't say that, but just dropping your website will say I'm legit without saying it. And show people, don't tell people. That's another thing. And being able to say, hey, I'm a photographer. I'm staying at your hotel while I'm visiting this national park. I know this is super out of the blue, but is there any chance you or the business owner or any of your staff are locals, possibly a couple, maybe a married couple, who would potentially be interested in free, really beautiful photographs in this national park that you live next to? Like, that's definitely more out on a limb. You might have to do that, like, and contact a lot more people to like find someone who's actually interested in it, but it has worked before. So that's like, I'd say more of like a last resort. That one's like a stretch. That one's pretty difficult, but not completely impossible. I mean, worst case, they think you're crazy and, one of the crazy American tourists but it's like, if they're used to it, they're used to dealing with tourists, like, it's probably not the weirdest email they've ever gotten from a patron. So, anyway, so other like last resort options, if you just cannot freaking find a couple, is bring a couple with you. Like, sure, most likely you have a friend who is in a relationship who's been in front of your camera before, or maybe hasn't, and you're like, hey, like, why don't we just go on a trip to Denali together? Or let's go on a trip to Torres del Paine National Park in Patagonia together. And you know what, let's go. See if you can plan a trip with a friend, with a couple who's already going. If you cannot find anyone, that can work. And then it's like, cool, you can just make sure the dress fits her beforehand, bring stuff, like, set it up, make it happen. I want to talk more about travel hacking, like maybe in a future video or future guide or something. I've had so many people ask me how I travel hack, which is mostly how, like, most of the places that I've been to out of traveling to 30 countries, most of those flights and hotels and things I haven't paid for. They've been things that I've travel hacked. So you're either not paid for or found like just unreasonably crazy cheap deals on. And so the travel that I've done around the world, and a lot of these shoots that I've set up, and a lot of time, if I've ever, paid for someone's travel to get somewhere for something, I'm paying a fraction of the price of what it really should be. So for me, travel is just not as out of reach as I think a lot of people think that it is. And so that's the beauty of travel hacking, which would be a super fun topic, but I can't go into and I really want to right now. So essentially what I'm saying, like, planning a trip with a couple of friends, like, even worst case, if you could not convince them to pay for it and you had to pay for it yourself, could actually be surprisingly cheap. So, all right, so last couple of things. We talked about, okay, so let's say you found models, like, surely one of those strategies will have worked. And so then, okay, how do you clothe them? So we talked about really cheap Amazon dresses, from somewhere else, from Reformation, from Lulu's, from, Beholden, or wherever. I'm personally a big fan of buying dresses rather than connecting with dress designers. And that's just a personal preference of mine. It might be just because of the type of genre of stuff that I shoot that tends to be kind of crazy and outdoors and adventurous. And like, the dresses that I photograph, they get dirty. They get really, really freaking dirty. And dresses are more, you know, they're easier to clean and they're easier to wash and they're easier to reuse than people think. But I wouldn't want to bank that on a very expensive dress that was being loaned to me. Personally, my own personal opinion, because of where I take dresses, I wouldn't trust myself, and I wouldn't want like a person wearing a dress to feel like they were needing to tiptoe around in it. That wouldn't really work with like my style of wanting to have a lot of movement and dynamicness is probably not a word, dynamicy in my images. And so I probably wouldn't want to do that. So, but if you do want to reach out to a dress vendor, there are vendors, and especially more like aspiring designers or smaller brands that could very much be, you know, be benefited by having more just real life photos of their dresses, you know, for put on their Instagram or put on their website. So again, when you're asking vendors to collaborate with you, always consider your audience and think, what is the benefit of this to them? So to a dress designer, like maybe they want to be featured on your Instagram, but maybe it would be more valuable to them just be like, hey, like I can guarantee you 50 high-res images from this shoot that like really well showcase the dress, or maybe it's 10 really amazing high-res images from the shoot that beautifully showcase the dress, and I'll give you commercial rights to them to use unlimited in your advertising. Like whatever it is, like consider what would the benefit to them be, and then ask. And then, you know, if they can't loan you one, maybe you can pay a rental fee for one, or maybe you can get a discount on one. And maybe, you know, I've done this before. So Reclamation, Trista Smith from like Reclamation Design, she designed my elopement dress. She does amazing stuff out of recycled vintage lace. I purchased a dress from her for the workshop that I just ran in Arizona. And so the dress, I think I paid $700 for it probably, which was a great deal, but I owned it. I bought it and I own it outright. And so, you know, we used it for the workshop and it was amazing, and it's still in phenomenal shape. And I have a couple of options. I can resell the dress, probably get most of that money back out of it. I can hold on to it, and I can rent it out to other photographers, you know, create a traveling dress project with it. I can add it to my closet full of dresses and just have it on hand for things that pop up, and, you know, be like, oh my gosh, this last minute trip to wherever is happening, like I'm gonna just pack this dress and bring it with me and see what happens. And so, you know, and that's a stunningly beautiful, unique dress. So you can connect with a designer, maybe find a dress designer on Etsy, and, you know, connect with people. It doesn't always have to be these big, giant, famous Rudison companies. You know, like think creatively with like smaller designers, local people on Etsy. You can, and always consider like who they are, who your audience is, and what you might be able to offer them that will be a benefit to them. Focus on the benefit to them, not to you, when you're communicating. And so, yeah, so you don't have to have an Instagram following for someone to loan you a dress if you offer them something that they see as just as valuable as exposure on an Instagram. Like high-res images could be huge. So for me, I haven't gone after talking to like really big, popular, the big name dress companies and asking for a dress. Is just, I don't want to destroy a $10,000 wedding dress, which I feel like I totally would on a shoot because of the type of stuff that I do. But if you want to, like, go for it. You know, there's no harm in asking and putting yourself out there. So you don't know, and you will always be a no if you don't ask. So, you know, and so the other place that's like a really simple way to get a wedding dress that you can photograph that perfectly fits like the couple who you want to model for you is to just try to find previously married couples that already have wedding dresses. That's like the simplest thing. So, you know, in your model call, if like that's what you need to do to make this shoot happen, and for it to be super easy, is to just say, hey, like I'm looking for a married couple who has wedding clothes, who'd be, you know, willing to put them back on again. Like, you know, just set that as the base. So then when you have models, you automatically have your clothing. And that's pretty much it. That's all that I do for most of my portfolio building shoots while I'm traveling. So that can be You know, so those are good ways to find dresses and clothing and attire. So how do you find vendors? So if you're wanting to set up a more fancy style shoot, and for me, like, that's not something that you know, the fanciest that I've done is maybe hair and makeup and flowers. But I haven't done one personally, because it's not something that doesn't make my heart sing. Like, personally, the really fancy and intricate styled things, that's just not totally my target market or what I'm the most interested in doing. I'd rather do 10 shoots in 10 different cool locations that took much less time and planning and money for that one really intense shoot that could get published. That's just not personally my priorities. So again, consider what your priorities are, what you want to do. There's nothing wrong with doing those kind of intense shoots. Like, I admire them. I think they're beautiful. Like, I think that they're really neat, but they're not something that I personally would be like, yes, I want to put that together. That seems like fun. No, that's not how I feel about it. So, and so a cool way to find vendors when I have been looking for vendors in an area that I'm totally not familiar with. One, you know, we've talked about making good relationships with local photographers and just being genuine, offering, you know, quid pro quo, being like, hey, like, I am seriously completely happy to do the same for you. If you can even stay with me, you know, you can stay at my house. Like, let me show you these cool spots. I'll connect you with some of my couples if you want to shoot people, or some of my friends, or, you know, trade with me when you come. Like, be clear and be generous. You know, and so you can get the same things of like, hey, like, I need a model and I need a vendor recommendation. You can ask in Facebook groups. I found it even better to just, if you know a local photographer there, to just message them and just ask them and say, hey, like, I'm really struggling finding a florist. Like, can you recommend anyone? Do you know anyone that, you know, really appreciate the business or the exposure or whatever? So that can be a great way to do it. So another way, let me show you this really quick. I'll screen share quickly, share screen, is to actually search for vendors that have already done shoots in that area on a wedding blog. So for example, let's go to Junebug Weddings really quick and see what we can find here. So let's say I was looking for a florist who might be able to get flowers in Yosemite. You know, Yosemite isn't near any big cities, so like that near any big cities directly. So really good trick is most places that have published shoots anywhere in the world, you know, let's do something more harder than Yosemite. Let's try Thailand. Let's say you were trying to set up a style shoot in Thailand and you wanted to try to find a florist there. Like, that seems like a harder thing to search for. So let's just search Junebug Weddings for Thailand and see if they have ever published any shoots from Thailand. Cool. So this was like an inspiration shoot by somebody. Here's a Thailand elopement. Oh wow, there's quite a lot of these. Here's another one. Here's another one. Let's, yeah. Let's just, yeah, that's plenty. So let's see if my Wi-Fi can cope with this. So yeah, so let's start over here. Let's go all the way to the bottom and let's look at the vendors and see what they're showing up here. So, nope, they're not showing the vendors on this one. So let's look at this one. Usually they list the vendors at the bottom. Here we go. So florist. Okay, look, so there's a resort that, okay, so it looks like the ceremony was at the resort and the florist being at the resort. It looks like this resort has a connection with a florist that can do flowers. Like, boom, awesome. So I already have a contact right there just by looking at 2 blog posts on a blog. I can, you know, see like, hey, this is a resort. If I contact them, like, they might, you know, be able to get me in touch with the florist. Like, awesome, cool. You know, so I have found a lot of vendors through searching blogs. So, you know, if you're looking for a florist, a wedding florist in Thailand, like Google Thailand wedding and see what like big name blogs pop up. Like, see if something from Junebug or The Knot or Martha Stewart or Green Wedding Shoes or whatever pops up, and see if you can find who the florist was for the shoot. So yeah, I've, you know, spent a lot of time digging into these things. The floral design. Oh, look, here's an actual florist. Look, they have a Facebook page and they're in Samui. And so, you know, you might have to look around to eventually find one who's in the right area for you. And you can be in contact with the florist. You can see if they fit the style that you are looking for. But I found, don't just look at what they're showing in their portfolio. Like, check out how the flowers actually looked in the wedding, or or in the elopement shoot that you were looking at. So let's see if this one had flowers. Let's check it out. No, it looks like it was just photographers. So not every single thing that's published always has a huge amount of vendors, which I find refreshing, because I don't think these have to be incredibly complicated floral design. Looks like this place did it for this shoot. Cool. So great way to find vendors is just to search through blogs. So that is, you can find, I found hair and makeup artists that way. I've found event planners that way. I've found florists that way, is just by searching through blogs. You can also search by Googling. One thing that I found helpful is if you are looking through those blogs and you find, you know, and you find a few vendors, but they'll say they aren't quite the style that you are looking for, at least then you know kind of what keywords, what ways people are titling. Maybe it's like you don't know what the word florist is in that language. Like, say you're looking for a florist in Italy, you don't know how to actually search for that, how to actually Google for that specific term. And when you ever Google florist or flowers, you're getting like flower shops, not actual florists. And so even just the act of being able to get to a website of someone who had actually done florals for a wedding and be able to copy and paste keywords that you can then stick back into Google of like, okay, that's the Italian word for florist that I'm looking for. That's going to help me find an actual florist. You can also find vendors through Instagram hashtags. So again, sometimes it's hard to find what hashtag you're looking for. So you need to do hashtag research, like you need to do keyword research. If you're using it for Google, it's kind of backwards. But once you find it, it's like, okay, cool. Like, here's 10 different florists, and I can look for their Instagrams in this area. And, you know, if you reach out to someone and they're not available, and they're like, oh, that was the only person that I found that I liked, like, guess what? You can ask them and say, hey, do you have any other recommendations? So sometimes searching for vendors is just kind of like spider web situation to find the right person. And then there was a question, should you always pay vendors, or, you know, is it okay to ask for trades sometimes? And I think there's no set answer to that question. I've done both. I've done trades with florists. I've done, you know, I'll pay the wholesale cost for the florist. And I've also had, you know, paid full costs for flowers, depending on the area and how expensive it actually was, because sometimes flowers are just so dirt cheap, it's almost like insulting to come as like a fancy, a lot of times I think it's insulting, depending on like the country that you're going to come in and say, hey, you hardworking person in this country should give me something for free because I'm fancy and white and have a bit large Instagram following. I feel like that's sketchy. So a lot of the times I've paid for flowers and paid for hair and makeup, like whatever the going rate is in that country, especially if it's a country that's less developed than the US. I feel like that's just being a decent human being personally, where, you know, in the US and within your own culture and within your own socioeconomic status, I feel like it's a little bit more okay to you know, consider, hey, like, this was what the benefit would be to you. Like, I'm willing to offer like this many high-res images that specifically feature your florals that you can use unlimited on all your social media and your website. You know, it will be given to you within this. Here's a contract stating that, make it really clear. You know, make sure you follow through with the people that you promise photos to. That's super, super key. And so, unless I'm gonna see if there's anything else in my notes. Yeah, so then the last thing is, you know, the other really great way to connect with someone who can help you put a whole shoot together. If you can't find a local photographer who wants to collaborate with you, see if you can collaborate with a local planner. You know, there's a lot of them all over the world. The wedding industry and the destination wedding industry is huge, and everyone wants content. Everyone wants to do new things, wants to do exciting things. And so you can reach out to someone and say, hey, I have this idea, but I also am open to your ideas, and maybe there's something you've always wanted to put together, but you haven't found the right photographer to partner with. Like, let's have a conversation. Let's talk. Let's see if we have some ideas that align, that we could create a really productive working relationship together, and you know, it'd be a win-win situation. Again, I think all of these things should always be win-win situations, and so that's the best way to get people to show up. In addition to really having solid contracts and really clear set expectations is key. So yeah, that's pretty much all that I had to talk about. As far I think, how long has this video been since I lost Wi-Fi? This one. So I feel like I've already talked for this for over 2 hours, so that's fun. So I'm gonna splice these 2 videos together and then get these uploaded. And then I'm really excited to hear your thoughts. I always think it's so cool to hear the ways that people have made these connections happen, cool creative ways that people have found vendors and found models and like put together really neat shoots around the world. It's a really fun creative process, a fun problem-solving game. You know, you have to think in kind of different ways and put yourself out there and get out of your comfort zone. And I think it's a really, really fun activity. So I'm actually doing one of these shoots here in Kauai. So I feel like this is a good, appropriate topic for this week on here. So sorry the Wi-Fi cut out in the middle of our video, but I'm glad that I got to do this, and I'm looking forward to doing it again. So thank you guys so much who are in the Facebook group for asking questions and for being here. It's so much easier to talk to you guys than it is to my computer screen alone in a room like I'm doing right now. So this is super fun. So all right, talk to you later. Till next time, bye. Okay, there was one more thing I forgot that someone asked that is a really good question that I would make sure that I address before I wrap this up. Someone asked, how do you actually use these shoots? So great, you've gotten a couple, you've gotten clothes, you've set up a cool shoot in a cool new location. Great, now what do you do with it? How do you actually make it worth your while? Maybe you've spent money on it, maybe you've paid for someone's travel or paid for clothing or a florist or a hair makeup artist or whatever to like put the shoot together. Maybe you spent a lot of money on it. How do you make it the most worth your while? How do you leverage it in the best way possible? And that's such an important question that I want to make sure that I address, because that's the whole key in all of this. If you're doing these shoots for fun, but the images never see the light of day, you don't know how to leverage them properly, then it's not worthwhile. You are gaining experience. I personally think the shoots are really fun to do anyway, because I just genuinely enjoy photographing couples in cool locations. But it's probably useful to know how you actually leverage it. So the answer lies in whatever marketing platforms that you have found to be the most successful and that have the best return on investment for your target market. For me, and I think in general in the wedding and elopement industry, Instagram is huge, and SEO and blogging is huge. Pinterest is kind of like a rising star as far as ROI. And so really it's kind of those 3 platforms that are really important to make sure that you leverage your shoot in the best way possible. And there's some interesting things that you can do with it besides just the obvious of put the shoot on a blog, publish a few images on Instagram, which is like what most people do. So again, always I can't go into SEO right now, even though I love SEO and I love talking about it and teaching people and mentoring people on it. But SEO, make sure you do your keyword research properly before you tag your images, and make sure you're tagging, alt tagging and file naming every image correctly in the blog post and with the right keywords. And then that you're writing something substantial in the post to make it count as content. And someone asked, do you blog like a styled elopement session as an elopement? Do you label it elopement? Is that okay? So this is what I do. So in order for a shoot to really rank well SEO wise, yes, the word elopement, and let's say it's like Alaska elopement, that needs to be in the title. it needs to be in the title, and it needs to be in the heading 1, and it needs to be in the first, 100 words of the text that you're writing for the post for it to be effective. It needs to be in your alt text. So what if it wasn't an elopement? How do you square that circle ethically? It's in how you write the post. So you can title something like something elopement or something elopement inspiration, and in the post explain that it was a shoot, that how you met this couple, and how fun it was putting it together, and how fun it was exploring and shooting and building a relationship with them, and what the day was like, and what you learned, and all these cool things and some interesting things that someone reading might be able to see, like, wow, yeah, the photographer, like, they've been there, they know what they're doing, like, they set up this whole thing, like, that's so cool. And so I think you can very clearly and honestly explain what the shoot was like, and that it was, no, it wasn't a real elopement. And I think that should be clear in the text. I don't think that it's like perfectly black and white, straight-laced to like set up a completely fake styled shoot and like write a whole blog post like as if it was a real elopement. I like get a little sketched out about that personally, and it's not, I think there's nothing wrong with like SEO tagging your post properly to make sure that you leverage it the best way possible from SEO, and then just being honest in the post that it was styled. You don't even have to use the word style. You can still talk about the story of the day very similar to the way you would talk about a real elopement or like a real couple who had honestly hired you. Just be honest that, they didn't say their vows, like they weren't getting married. Like to say, be honest about they got married 3 years ago and they put on their clothes and we had this amazing adventure, even if you're titling it Alaska Elopement or something. So that's a good way to leverage the blog post. Secondly, don't just look inside the box of like only publishing the images of how you can leverage the images that you take from a certain location. Don't forget content marketing posts around, the coolest locations to get married in a certain area, or the rules and logistics and, fun, interesting, useful, valuable information around getting married in a certain national park or state or whatever. You can create valuable content posts that are around the same keywords that you can make 4 or 5 posts that you post over several months from one shoot. You can leverage that correctly. That's quintupling the value that you have SEO wise from one single shoot if you leverage it properly. And then when you are, then from that blog post, you can push it to your Instagram. You can push it to your Instagram 5 times if it's 5 different blog posts. You can publish on your Instagram. You can publish on images on your Instagram 20 times. You can use hashtags in that location, geotags in that location. Like people are going to notice if over a 6-month period you have pushed out 30 different images from Santorini. You're gonna start popping to mind when someone thinks about who has been to Santorini if you published consistently an image from that elopement, and like surely you've taken more than 30 images of that elopement or shoot or whatever. So it's that kind of brand awareness, and that it's just someone thinking about who have I seen on Instagram that has shot in Santorini. If you're doing that consistently versus just pushing it to Instagram once, then that's going to work really well. And talking about how you properly leverage Pinterest and Instagram and SEO is like huge, massive talks all on their own. But really quickly, just a cool way to just leverage shoots like this in a good way is to blog not once but multiple times. Get creative with content posts that are just beyond just sharing a story of images. Push those images to Instagram, push those content posts to Instagram multiple times, do your hashtag research like you do your keyword research for SEO, and then push it to Pinterest in the same way. Make sure stuff is titled and Pinterest SEO'd correctly and put on the right boards, and that you're doing all of the things to make it perform well on Pinterest as well. And then it's coming back to your blog and getting more traffic to your site. It's like win, 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 win. You can really, like, one shoot really well leveraged can make a phenomenal difference if you leverage it correctly. And I think those are the 3 most important channels to make sure that you're dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's, and like you can really milk like one shoot like really far. So okay, that was my extra little tidbit of advice that I want to make sure that I got in here. So thanks.